Good afternoon, guys. My name is Jamie Murphy. You might know me from some of my other videos that I put together for some motivation stuff, for some fitness stuff. Pretty soon we're going to be doing some more videos for a local company here in the Qualicum, Parksville area for some promotional stuff and social media work. Today what I'm going to be showing you is if you have some parents that are maybe elderly parents that can't cook complicated meals. This isn't a complicated meal. You can do some of the pre-work to prepare a nice nutritious meal that they're going to love and that they'll be easily able to prepare for themselves. You can do some of the pre-work, like I said. You can freeze this item, bring it to them in Ziploc bags if you want. They can kind of prepare that themselves if they have caregivers that also come to them as well. It's a quick, easy meal, very inexpensive, very easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to make that today. Believe it or not, it is wonton soup, which you may not think is an easy meal to make because you go to a Chinese restaurant or you have takeout and you get that and you have no idea how it's made, but it is very good. It's nutritious, cheap, and something that you can make for somebody if you have a young a student that might be off at college, that they can put together a nutritious meal, and it's quick to make, and like I said, easy. You can freeze it, and there's tons of different ways that you can use it. You can deep fry it, or you can put it in with a soup or a chicken broth or something like that. All you're going to need: one large mixing bowl, some salt and pepper, some wonton wraps. I don't know, you won't be able to see the label on there. It really doesn't matter. They're available at a lot of markets. We have some ground pork, which is also readily available and quite cheap to make. I've got about 2 pounds. I've got a family of 5 here, so I'm going to make a whole bunch of them. I'm going to show you how many I can make with this low cost way to make a meal here. Soy sauce is the last one. You can add shrimp if you want. You'll have to grind it up or mash it. I can show you another recipe as well that we use mashed up shrimp. And maybe I'll make that video next weekend. But this is an easy one to make. You've got your pork, your wonton wraps, salt and pepper and soy sauce in a big mixing bowl. Basically what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to make these wontons. I'm going to show you how you can freeze them. And then after they're frozen, you can bag them up. It takes probably about, I'd say, I guess the hardest part or the longest part is the wrapping of them, but making the mixture take about 5 minutes. There is a special way that I do manipulate the pork, if you want to call it that. I mix it up, and it's actually a traditional Chinese way. I learned it from a friend of mine. His name is Wei Nam Chang. He did operate a Chinese restaurant, which was in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where I grew up. Some fantastic Cantonese dishes that he did teach me. I don't know why he was teaching me too many recipes, because I did carry on and make some of them myself, and I'm no longer a customer of his because he did teach me how to make all these recipes. So I'm going to switch up the video here a little bit. I'm going to show you how to mix all of these items. You can choose to take out some of the ingredients if you want to keep with a low sodium diet. You can take out some of the salt, the soy sauce. You can add the green onions if you'd like. My wife doesn't like green onions, so I'm going to leave those out of this recipe. And we're just going to make it with pork. No shrimp in this one today, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Thanks, guys. Look forward to the next portion of this video. So what I'm going to show you here, guys, is the mixing and the making of this recipe here. What you can see in that bowl is I got probably a couple of pounds, maybe 3 pounds of our ground pork here. You're just going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. You don't have to add a lot because a lot of the flavor in the wonton soup is going to be in the broth, and if you're putting it with noodles or anything like that, you can really mix it up. Also, you can deep fry these wontons as well. So if you are going to put it with any kind of sauce, like a plum sauce or anything like that, you can add some sauce, and that's where you're going to get a lot of the flavor. Like I said, you can do this with a low sodium diet. You can add with a little bit of soy sauce. It really isn't that much soy sauce. It might look like quite a bit there, but it is with, like I said, about 3 pounds of ground beef. So most of the flavor is going to be out of the meat, out of the broth and noodles and whatever sauce you might use for it. So you don't have to heavily season this here. You can see it's really not that much that I put in there because it is quite a simple recipe. You can use any kind of soy sauce if you'd like. These aren't brand specific, and if you can see, I don't know how well that camera is showing up on that wrap there. That's the wraps that I use for my wontons, and I'll show you how that works a little bit later. So basically, this is where you're going to get your hands dirty. I have my wedding ring on here, but I can clean that off as well a little bit later here. So you're just going to mix this guy all up like you would be using, if you were making meatballs or anything like that with your you know, if you're using ground beef. So you're going to mix it up like you would for making meatballs or meatloaf. The interesting part is going to come a little bit later, because there is a bit of a process, because ground pork isn't very smooth. It's, I guess, the same consistency as ground beef. But what you're going to do is you're actually going to make this pork a little bit softer, almost like a paste. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So you're actually going to beat it up a little bit. You can't really use a tenderizer, of course, because it's already ground. So there is a traditional way, like I said, I did learn from Nam Cheng back in Winnipeg, was you're actually going to throw the ground pork into that mixing bowl. You might want to start off with a smaller portion, because this is about, like I said, about 3 pounds of ground pork here. And you can start out with a smaller portion if you're just going to make for one loved one. I'm making for a whole family here, so this is going to be a little bit, you might throw out your shoulder here, but basically what you're going to do with this ground pork is you're going to take that ground pork and you're actually going to throw it into the pan. I don't know if that camera's shaking around or not, but you're just going to throw it into the pan. And actually what it is doing, and it's going to take me about 4 or 5 minutes to do this, it's actually breaking down some of the connective tissues in the pork. You can already see it is going a little bit smoother here. It isn't going to take a very long time. It's a little bit noisy, as you can probably tell, but after a few minutes of this, you're going to really see how that pork is going to soften up. That connective tissue is going to break down in this, and it's going to be quite easy to use and quite easy to deal with. So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit and get this done, and the next step is going to be how are you going to take apart those wraps there, and we're just going to use a butter knife at the next step, and I'll show you how to do that, guys. So I am going to keep beating up this ground pork here, and making sure that it's nice and easy to deal with. Thanks, guys. So what you're going to see, guys, is it might be a little bit tough to see on the texture of this ground pork here. If I got a little bit closer, you might be able to notice the difference. So the big difference between the first ground pork that we had and this guy here is the fact that this is a lot smoother. So maybe I can show you a little bit. Even if I were to butter it, you can see how that looks a lot smoother than the ground pork that came out of the package. You can see the video was sped up a little bit of the tenderizing, if you want to call it, of the ground pork. It was sped up a little bit. It probably took me about 5 minutes of just throwing it into that bowl there, just to break it down a little bit, to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to back up a little bit here. So what we have now is we've got these wonton wraps, and they are powdered, and they do separate quite easily. You can see they're not all stuck together, so you don't have to peel them. You can almost, look at them like a deck of cards there. So what you're going to do with that here, if I can get the right angle, is I'm just going to grab one of these wraps here. Maybe I'll get this a little bit closer on the other side here. So what I'm going to do is you're going to pick out the desired amount of pork that's going to be in your wonton. So you can see it doesn't have to be a lot. If you're just making this for lunch, you can have a small amount like that. You're just basically going to fold this a couple times. You can even bunch it up like that and just give it a short twist and maybe a little pinch in the middle there. So what you're going to do is, well, my camera's kind of going a little bit sideways there. You're just going to lay them out on a cookie sheet, and I've got this one lined with wax paper because I'm going to freeze them. They're going to be in the freezer for a few hours. Then I'm going to take them out and I'm going to bag them up. So of course I have about 3 pounds, like I said, 3 pounds of ground pork there. So I'm going to have quite a few of them. I might have a few of these cookie sheets here. So you can just bunch them up. You don't have to twist them or don't have to do anything fancy. These ones are a little bit small. I might make them a little bit bigger. If you want to make a meal like that for dinner or for just lunches, you're going to vary your quantity and the size of those guys. If you're making it for, like I said, a parent, that's just going to be having some, chicken noodle soup or wonton soup during the day. This size will be perfect for you. So I might speed up this video a little bit more. You're going to see how this is going to go as well. Thanks, guys. Okay guys, we're all wrapped up here. I got a bit of a mess to clean up. If you're gonna get a 1 pound of ground pork, you're probably gonna make 1 cookie sheet. I ended up making closer to 2 cookie sheets because I did have twice the amount because we're feeding a big family here. So you're gonna grab one of those packages. They're gonna come in a pack of 2. You're likely gonna go through that in about a pound of pork. I'm gonna freeze them overnight and then I'm gonna bag them up. So I have a stand-up freezer. That's why I can fit that kind of quantity of of all the wontons. But you're gonna freeze them overnight and then you can bag them up. I'm gonna show you how there's a couple ways you can cook them. They're really easy to cook. They cook very quickly, even from frozen. You don't have to thaw them at all. The pork that's within the wrap is going to keep the wrap nice and tight around that pork when you cook them. So I'm going to show you how you can deep fry them. You can put them with some sauce and you can put them with some broth. Like I said, even if you're going to make them with ramen noodles, if you have a teenager on a budget or a young student that's away at college, you can even send these ones in a cooler pack or whatever you want to do with them to make sure that they're nice and fresh for them. Very easy, very cost efficient, quite easy to make. I probably, like I said, I made 3 pounds of them, of the 3 pounds of pork. It probably cost me around $15 to $16 for everything included. So it's very low cost, and like I said, 3 pounds of them. I made at least two cookie sheets of them. You saw some of the video of me going through the sped up production of these. It does take a little bit of work, but the reason why you're making these low cost, easy to make. I'm not a chef, but they're pretty easy to make. I'm going to share some more videos with you of some quick recipes that you can help with some, like I said, if you have elderly parents that want a quick nutritious meal, something that they'll enjoy, because they're probably pretty sick of tomato soup and a ham sandwich. So I'm going to show you how to cook these guys in the next portion of the video. So finally guys, it is the next day after freezing our wontons. You can see I've got some in a bowl here. I'm just making some wontons with like a ramen noodle, which is one of these guys. Are very cheap meal to make for the kids. I've got 3 kids, so I need to make my food last a long time. So when I'm going to go ahead and put some wontons in there, I know I'm going to be having some noodles with it as well, so I don't have to put too many. I've got some big eaters in here, so you can see these are frozen solid. I'm just going to put these guys in the water here, and they do cook pretty quickly, so you're going to probably leave them in here for about, let me give another one there, probably only a few minutes. They're going to cook all the way through, and the noodles are going to stay wrapped around that the pork that we mixed up earlier. It's not going to take long to cook, and basically halfway through their cooking, I'm going to add that that package of ramen noodles in there, and it does have that broth in there that you're going to add after as well to give you a little bit more flavor. So it's a really quick meal to make, super cheap to make. Like I said, we looked at the price of the wontons. Of course, water is relatively inexpensive, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And the noodles are less than $1 a pack. They're probably around 50 cents a pack. So this will give you a good idea of what you can do for a quick meal. My camera's just going to turn around here. So you can do that for a quick meal and save yourself a bunch of money. If you're doing it for somebody else, it's quick and easy to do. For kids, kids can do it themselves as well if you have teenagers or college students. Or if you're making it for your parents, your caregivers of your parents can also make that for themselves, or make that for your parents as well. So quick, probably, like I said, it'll take a few minutes for that to cook in there. They're pretty darn close to being done already. It's a really quick meal to make. I'm only at about 2 minutes into this video there since adding those wontons. I'm going to add my noodles in probably about 35 seconds. It shouldn't take you longer than 5 or 6 minutes to make a meal like this. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, Kieran.